What would happen if one of the most peaceful countries in the world were not the richest, the most modern, or the fastest growing? In Laos, many people earn less and own less, yet they do not seem trapped in an endless race. In a world that constantly pushes people to move faster and acquire more, this country still lives by the rhythm of its rivers, mountains, and farming seasons. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment telling us whether you would be ready to slow down and live like the people here. Because the most fascinating question is not what Laos lacks, but what its people still have that the rest of the world has lost. Number 15. Laos, a country that slows down in a fast-moving Southeast Asia. Located in Southeast Asia, Laos stands quietly as a country that seems outside the region's fast-moving rhythm. Surrounded by Thailand, Vietnam, China, Cambodia, and Myanmar, this country has no coastline, no seaports, and no direct connection to global shipping routes. While many neighboring countries have accelerated through industry and trade, Laos has continued to develop at a slower pace. By 2025, the economy of Laos is worth about $17 billion, and its population is close to 7,800,000 people, making it one of the least densely populated countries in Southeast Asia. Still, those numbers do not fully explain this country. Nearly 70% of its land is made up of mountains, plateaus, and dense forests, creating natural barriers to transport and infrastructure. In many areas, paved roads gradually turn into dirt roads, while electricity and public services remain difficult to reach. More than 70% of the labor force still depends on agriculture, living by the land, the rivers, and the farming seasons. To outsiders, that may look like a sign of slow development. But seen another way, Laos has preserved something that is becoming rare: the time to live by sunrise, sunset, and the rhythm of nature, instead of constantly chasing schedules, pressure, and a race with no finish. Number 14. The Mekong River. From riverside life to a national source of electricity. The Mekong River does more than flow through Laos. It serves as the lifeline of the entire country, stretching for more than 4,300 kilometers across 6 countries. The river follows much of Laos's western border and quietly shapes the lives of millions of people. Every morning, fishermen cast their nets across the calm water, using techniques passed down through generations. By the afternoon, wooden boats slowly connect villages, carrying goods, news, and human contact through places where road travel is not always convenient. In southern Laos, the river divides into countless channels around Si Phan Don, also known as the 4,000 Islands, creating one of the most peaceful landscapes in Southeast Asia. Visitors can cycle along empty roads and watch Irrawaddy dolphins briefly rise above the water before disappearing into the wide river. Despite its calm appearance, the Mekong plays a major role in the economy of Laos through hydropower. By 2026, dozens of dams have helped the country export electricity to neighboring nations. Even with modernization, the river still determines the rhythm of daily life. Rising and falling water levels mark the changing seasons, while local people continue to live beside it, depend on it, and respect it as an inseparable part of their lives. Standing along the riverbank, it is easy to feel as though time slows down with every passing current. Number 13. Laos. A different view of beauty. In Laos, beauty does not need to be displayed to be noticed. It appears in ordinary moments, from the first light of day falling across wooden rooftops to the sight of a woman walking through her village in a traditional singe skirt. She does not rush or try to attract attention. A gentle smile, a calm expression, or the way people speak to one another is enough to create the distinct beauty of this place. By 2026, more than 60% of the population of Laos still lives in rural areas, where daily life remains closely connected to family, community, and customs passed down through generations. For this reason, local ideas of beauty are less influenced by trends or luxury. Beauty comes from sincerity, the way people treat others, and the comfort of living as their true selves. Even in Vientiane, where new buildings and a more urban rhythm are gradually emerging, the city still moves at a gentler pace than many other places in the region. For the Lao people, beauty does not have to stand out in a crowd. Sometimes, it can be found in a sense of belonging, in respect for others, and in the peace of someone who does not feel the need to constantly prove their worth. In a world that continually pressures people to become more, Laos shows that living honestly and feeling content can also be a form of beauty. Number 12. The harsh reality of life in the mountains of Laos. Do not mistake the calm nature of Laos for an easy life. Behind the gentle smiles and slower pace are long days of demanding labor, especially in remote rural and mountainous areas. By 2026, many communities still do not have full access to clean water, reliable electricity, proper roads, or modern transportation. In some villages, women must walk under the hot sun to collect water, then carry heavy containers back home by themselves. Men enter the forests or work in the fields, returning with firewood and agricultural products weighing dozens of kilograms on their shoulders. Not every place has machinery to make the work easier. Much of the labor still depends on physical strength, endurance, and knowledge built over many generations. Agriculture remains the foundation of everyday life. Growing rice requires many hours of work under the sun, season after season. When the weather changes unexpectedly, the result is not simply a poor harvest. It can directly affect whether an entire family has enough food to eat. What stands out is not only the difficulty of these conditions, but also the way people continue to live with them. They do not treat hard labor as something unusual. Instead, it is a familiar part of life, carried with patience, responsibility, and the ability to adapt to harsh conditions every day. Number 11. Unexploded bombs and a past that has not fully ended. Beneath the peaceful appearance of Laos lies a past that has never completely ended. From 1964 to 1973, the country became the most heavily bombed nation per person in history. More than 270 million cluster bombs were dropped, equal to one bombing mission every 8 minutes, for nearly a decade. By 2026, an estimated 80 million unexploded bombs were still buried beneath farmland, forests, and residential areas. These unexploded weapons, known as UXO, continue to affect farming, construction, and everyday life even today. Children in some areas are taught how to recognize dangerous objects, while clearance teams continue working each year to make more land safe again. In many villages, traces of the war appear in a different form. Old bomb casings are reused as plant containers, fences, or decorations. Objects that once represented destruction have become part of daily life, not as a way to forget the past, but as a way for people to continue living beside it. In Laos, history does not exist only in books or museums. It may be buried directly beneath people's feet. Even so, life continues with calmness and resilience, showing that the past can leave deep wounds without having to control the present. Number 10. The tradition of living with the wife's family in Lao culture. In many Lao communities, love is only the beginning of a marriage. Whether the relationship is accepted by the family also depends on responsibility, behavior, and the ability to build a stable life. The man must prove himself through his actions. He needs to show that he is hardworking, patient, disciplined, and capable of caring for a family. This process may continue for many years because the parents observe more than how he treats their daughter. They also consider how he works, how he responds to hardship, and whether he keeps his promises.
Once the marriage is approved, the union connects not only two people, but also two families. In some regions, the husband moves into the wife's family home instead of bringing her into his own household. This tradition offers a different view of responsibility and the man's role within the family. He becomes a member of his wife's household, sharing the work, contributing to the family, and helping to build their life together. To outsiders, this custom may seem surprising, but within the local community, it represents respect and shows that a person must earn the place he is given. Here, love is not proven through grand promises or temporary emotions, but through persistence, responsibility, and quiet acts repeated every day. Today's journey has not yet reached its most surprising part. Subscribe so you do not miss the lesser-known truths about countries around the world. The next section may completely change the way you see this place. Number 9. The unwritten rules of Lao culture. In Laos, many important rules are not written on signs or explained in any guidebook. People learn them through observation and habits passed down across generations. In Buddhist life, Theravada monks are treated with special respect. People usually keep an appropriate distance, avoid unnecessary physical contact, and speak gently when they are near them. This is not a strict requirement, but a traditional form of respect that remains part of everyday life. Another important detail involves the use of the feet. In Lao culture, pointing the soles of the feet toward another person, a Buddha image, or a sacred object, is considered disrespectful because the feet are viewed as the lowest part of the body. For visitors, these customs may seem like small details. In Laos, however, respect is often shown through ordinary actions, from the way people greet one another and sit inside a temple to the tone of their voice and the way they move through shared spaces. These unwritten rules are rarely passed down through long explanations. Children learn by watching adults, then repeat the same behavior in their daily lives. Perhaps this quiet form of learning is what gives Lao culture its distinct character, where the strongest values do not need to be written down in order to remain alive across generations. Number 8. Lao cuisine, understanding a culture through flavor. To understand Laos, you do not always need to begin with history. Sometimes, you only need to sit down in front of a meal. Every dish here tells a story about the land, the seasons, and habits passed down through generations. For first-time visitors, ingredients such as fried insects, bamboo shoot soup, padaek, or ant eggs may seem unfamiliar. But for the Lao people, these foods are not prepared simply to attract curiosity. They reflect adaptability, careful use of resources, and the ability to make the most of what nature provides. At nearly every meal, sticky rice, known as khao niao, holds a central place. Small portions are shaped by hand, then eaten with grilled meat, fresh herbs, spicy dipping sauces, and seasonal vegetables. Laos is also among the countries with the highest per-person consumption of sticky rice in the world. More importantly, a meal is rarely meant for only one person. People sit together around the table sharing food, stories, and time with one another. By 2026, many traditional recipes remain part of everyday life, preserving flavors that have changed very little across generations and within the memories of individual families. Lao cuisine does not expect you to enjoy everything. It simply invites you to try, because every unfamiliar flavor offers another way to understand this culture without needing many words.
Number 7. Laos. When happiness comes from simple things. A new day often begins with a thin trail of cooking smoke and a portion of sticky rice placed in the center for the family to share. After breakfast, people head to the fields, open their small shops, or continue with their familiar daily work. Life still brings its own difficulties, but the pace here is slow enough that each day does not have to become a race. As evening arrives, people often gather on wooden porches, beside quiet roads, or along the banks of the Mekong River. They pass food from one person to another, share stories from the day, and sometimes enjoy a bottle of beer lao together. No one rushes to leave. There is also no pressure to keep talking, simply to fill every moment of silence. By 2026, Laos remains among the countries with a relatively affordable cost of living in Southeast Asia. What makes this place memorable, however, is not only the price of daily life. It is also a home-cooked meal, the cool evening breeze, and a conversation that continues long after the food is gone. Through these moments, people may begin to understand that contentment does not always come from owning more or constantly searching for something new. Sometimes, a sense of fulfillment appears when people slow down and give their attention to the ordinary things that have always been part of life.
Number 6. Ancient Mysteries. Hidden in the heart of Laos. Among the mountains and forests, Laos still preserves many mysteries that no one has fully explained. The most famous is the Plain of Jars in Muang province, where thousands of enormous stone jars are scattered across the hills. Some weigh several tons and are more than 2,000 years old. Who created them and why they appeared here remain questions without definite answers. Some researchers believe the jars were connected to ancient burial rituals. Others think they may have been used for long-distance trade or ceremonial gatherings. Near Luang Prabang, the Pak Ukavs hold thousands of Buddha statues left behind by generations of worshippers. Deeper in the forest, some places are respected by local people because of their spiritual meaning, rather than any physical danger. By 2026, many of these sites have been protected and continue to be studied. Yet the more people investigate, the more questions they discover. In an age when satellites can map almost every part of the world, Laos reminds us that some things still cannot be fully explained. Sometimes, it is this sense of the unknown that makes a place unforgettable. The stone jars remain motionless among the grass and wind, while the Buddha statues inside the caves continue to watch each generation arrive and leave, preserving a story that has not yet reached its end.
Number 5. A heritage city in a changing world. Some cities do not race against time. Instead, they choose to preserve the layers of memory that shape them. Luang Prabang, the sacred former capital of Laos, is one of those places. In 1995, UNESCO recognized the city as a World Heritage Site. What makes Luang Prabang special is not tall buildings or luxury, but its rare architectural blend. Along its narrow streets, Buddhist temples with curved, gilded roofs stand beside French colonial houses from the 19th century. Two styles that seem completely different come together naturally, creating an atmosphere that feels both sacred and romantic. Beneath rows of palm trees, French-style wooden balconies shaded by bougainvillea stand near the deep red walls of Wat Sieng Tong. Temple bells sound softly in the early morning, while every old brick still carries traces of the historical periods that have passed. In Luang Prabang, everything moves slowly. The city does not pressure visitors to see as much as possible or move from place to place too quickly. It encourages them to stop, observe, and feel the peace within every rooftop, alleyway, and temple courtyard. Perhaps this place raises a different question about progress. Does moving forward always require change? Or can it sometimes mean preserving original values in a world that never stops moving? Number 4. Sai Bat, the morning alms-giving ritual of Luang Prabang. Before sunrise, while most of Luang Prabang remains silent, the ancient temples begin opening their doors for the Sai Bat ritual. Hundreds of monks, dressed in orange robes, walk slowly through the streets, forming long lines beneath the early morning mist. Their bare feet touch the cold pavement, while each monk carries an alms bowl carefully against his body. There are no calls and no conversations, only the soft sound of footsteps moving steadily through each street. Along both sides, local residents and some visitors have been waiting since early morning. Small portions of warm, sticky rice, bread, or fruit are placed carefully into the monks' bowls. For the Lao people, this is more than a simple act of giving. The community offers food to support the monks, while the monks respond with prayers and blessings for the people. In the morning light, the orange robes stand out against the old streets, creating a moment that feels both simple and deeply solemn. Sai Bat requires no loud sounds or elaborate displays. Its silence allows those watching to feel more clearly the values of gratitude, generosity, and faith that have been preserved across generations. When the ritual ends, the streets slowly return to their usual rhythm, but the feeling of peace remains long afterward. Number 3. Bunpimay, the most colorful water festival in Laos. By mid-April, when the summer heat covers all of Laos, this usually quiet country changes completely during the Bunpimay festival. From major streets to small neighborhoods, buckets of water, hoses, and water guns quickly turn every place into a sea of laughter. Elderly people, children, local residents, and visitors all join the lively atmosphere, with no distance and no sense of unfamiliarity between them. Inside the temples, people gently pour scented water over Buddha statues, then sprinkle water onto one another's shoulders as a wish for peace. For the Lao people, water does more than cool the heat. It symbolizes purification, a new beginning, and the hope of leaving behind the misfortunes of the old year. Every splash of water carries a wish for health, good luck, and harmony. As the festival begins to quiet down, traditional music rises again through the streets that are still wet. Bunpimay reveals another side of Laos. Beneath its calm appearance lies a joyful spirit, deep warmth, and a natural ability to connect people through simple things. In that moment, the whole country steps into the new year with happiness. And perhaps, to begin a new journey, all a person really needs is the courage to let go of the past and welcome tomorrow with a lighter heart.
Number 2. Traditional stilt houses and life in the forests of Laos. Deep in the forests of Laos, traditional stilt houses still stand as a way of life preserved across generations. Local people build their homes on tall wooden posts to protect themselves from wild animals, floodwater, and ground moisture during the rainy season. This design, however, serves more than safety. It also shows how people adapt to nature, instead of trying to separate themselves from the environment around them. Beneath the house, the cool, open space is often used for weaving, storing farming tools, or gathering during the day. Above the floor, a warm living area becomes the place where the entire family gathers around the fire, shares meals, and rests after a long day of work. Because the house is raised above the ground, it also receives better airflow and keeps the living space dry throughout the long rainy months. Over the years, the house becomes a place that preserves the memories of each generation, from the sound of the loom and the smell of cooking smoke to quiet afternoons when older family members sit and look across the yard from the front porch. In the modern era, as concrete houses become increasingly common, the old stilt roofs still recall a slower way of life that remains closely connected to the land and sky. They remind us that a sustainable home does not always need to resist nature. It can endure by working with the climate, terrain, and conditions of the place where it stands.
Number 1. Muang, a quiet refuge in a technology-driven world. In northern Laos, Muang rests quietly beside the Nam O River, separated from the hurried pace of modern life. For many years, the village had almost no roads, internet access, or mobile phone signal. To reach it, visitors had to travel upstream by wooden boat, passing limestone cliffs and peaceful stretches of river. Once they stepped ashore, every feeling of urgency seemed to fade. During the day, the sounds of roosters, wooden rice pounders, and water touching the riverbank replaced traffic horns and machinery. Local people carried water, worked in the fields, and followed the rhythm of the sun. When night arrived, the limited electricity gradually went out, and the entire village disappeared into quiet darkness beneath a sky filled with stars. Life here lacks many modern conveniences, but in return, it offers rare moments of silence and a deep sense of closeness to nature. Today, roads and internet access have begun to reach the area, yet Muang Ngoi still preserves much of its original simplicity. The small village encourages people to ask whether technology truly helps us live better, or whether stepping away from our screens sometimes allows us to recognize what we actually need. Beside the river, the smiles of children and the lights glowing from front porches still suggest a life with fewer conveniences, but more time for people to be fully present with one another. As the sun slowly disappears behind the Mekong River, boats return to the docks, village lights begin to glow, and Laos settles back into its familiar rhythm. This country does not hide its hardships, from the lack of basic resources in mountain communities to the remains of war still buried beneath the ground. Yet the people continue to protect their families, traditions, and ability to find joy in the simplest parts of life. Perhaps Laos does not offer us a formula for happiness. It simply leaves us with one question. In your life today, what truly makes you feel that you have enough? Share your answer in the comments. If this journey has given you a new perspective, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and continue with us on our next adventure.